This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And of course, we're coming to you around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. You know, this is kind of the time of the year when everybody kind of looks back at Christmas and says, oh my God, how much money did I spend? Well, today I've got a guest who's going to talk to us about a New Year's resolution with attitude, debt-free in 2012. Trevor Bolin is my guest, and as a teenager, Trevor was a drug-abusing high school dropout who weighed in at more than 300 pounds. He supplemented his meager income pumping gas by hauling possessions to the pawn shop, where he picked up just enough money for hot dogs and Kraft mac and cheese. By 17, Trevor decided that he'd had enough and come up with a plan. Within a year, X-Zone Nation, he quit drugs, lost more than 100 pounds, and started on the path to the right life. By 21, he had paid off over $85,000 in debt, and by 21, he earned his first $1 million in a single year. And he did it all by simply coming up with an attitude plan and putting his plan into motion. Trevor has a great book out, X-Zone Nation. Take charge and change your life today. Joining me now from British Columbia, Canada, is Trevor Bolin. And Trevor, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
My goodness, is it that hard to do? Like, if it's so simple and just, you know, planning the change, implementing the change, that people can actually turn their life around. Why don't people do that?
Well, you know what? Honestly, I think it's funny when you say is it that easy, because when when you're sitting at day one looking out upon the next year, the year after, it seems like it's a long time away. But you know, when you're sitting there at day 364 and you're looking back on the changes you made, it seems like it all just happened yesterday.
Yeah, it seems that time is going much faster these days than what used to be a long time. I remember years ago, you'd think of a year and you'd look back and say, wow. But today when you look back at a year, it's like, oh my gosh, it just seems like yesterday. What's the hardest part for somebody in initiating any plan, especially when we want to be debt-free?
Well, you know what? I think the hardest step is step number one. It's admitting that there is the possibility of the fact that there needs to be change in your life, or the required change needs to happen, and for somebody to just stand up and say, you know what, I need to change. I need to start making my life what I deserve. I need to start making my life as I've always seen it. That's the hardest step, because if you know where you're starting and you can envision where you're ending, to fill in the pieces in the middle are just a series of baby steps, which is what my whole book was about. But that's step one is the hardest.
So I guess number one would be realizing that you have a problem, and number 1A is initiating the changes that have to be made in order to change your life.
It is, yeah. When I was through several circumstances in my life, as I like to say, trials and tribulations and learning lessons. And at each step, it came to a point in my life where a lot of people will start to set goals or envision change over the course of months or years. I was doing it one day at a time. I was literally taking baby steps, and continuing to always move forward.
All right, stand by, Trevor. You and I have to take a commercial break. X-Zone Nation, Trevor Bolin is our special guest. And the website for more information is www.trevorbolin.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break I'm sorry, it's www.bolininternational.com. That's www.bolininternational.com. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Trevor Bolin is our special guest. www.bolininternational.com. We're talking about Trevor's book, Take Charge and Change Your Life Today. Trevor, why should, growing up, I remember my parents making a lot of negative comments about money. And I'm wondering, is this the right thing for parents to do?
You know what, Rob? It's not, and I think a lot of times parents don't know they're doing it. And when I was growing up, and I mean even right until into my years now, my dad would always say examples of a fool and his money or being separated. And they always go on, and they don't realize that these kind of negative comments start to affect the way your kids look at money, the way they look at success, the way they look at savings. And it's time we kind of start to shift their thoughts on money.
And of course, the famous one that I always heard was, money is the root of all evil.
It is, and there's even signs and bumper stickers that have that, and I think that's one of the worst things we can tell people, or tell our children growing up, because that's not true. It's there's nothing wrong with earning money, whether it be a lot or whether it be a little, and there's nothing wrong with saving it. That's the kind of things that our kids today are our future leaders tomorrow. If we want to start to avoid some of the messes that we find global economies getting into, maybe it's not a bad idea to start having a different, a paradigm shift look at money. Yeah,
it's funny that they actually don't teach kids in school the right way of using money, how to save money, how to prepare for the future.
They don't, and that's unfortunate.
No, yeah.
I think at the end of the day, when kids all of a sudden become 17, 18, or and they're out on their own, or they're going to college, and you look at all these credit card companies now, they're sending them junk in the mail. They're at campuses, they're in the malls, or in airports, and they're pushing credit. Of course, our next generation has no idea what to do with it because we've never taught them. Right.
Now, why do you think it's so important to teach kids early about paying themselves?
I think it's just breaking the pattern. It's starting to give them a new awareness of money. When our oldest son was he was about 3 years old, we started doing some different things with him, and we started to helping him set goals, set budgets. Part of both those budgets and those goals were paying himself first. So we went with kind of the 60-40 rule with him, and any money that came in as far as birthday money or Christmas money, or allowance, because we'd pay him an allowance. He'd have to earn it for household chores, but any of that money was split up into savings, and some of it would go to the bank. And it's interesting because as you do these with the kids, and once a month we'd sit down and we'd open up his bank statements and show how much money he started with and how much money he put in and how much the bank gave him interest, and and showing him in monetary values. And all of a sudden it became exciting for him to start saving, and it's a pattern we've created that can stay with him now for the rest of his life.
How on earth did you end up with $85,000 in debt at such an early age in life?
Well, we just talked about about credit cards being shoved at our kids and shoved at our teenagers, and that was what it was. I was very young. I got into having a credit card, having an overdraft, on my bank card, and seeing my dad use visas all the time, or use bank cards and use these different things. The flip side of that was having to pay it back. At one point in the time, someone needs to pay that money back, and I just kept on going, and I mean, as long as they just kept letting me use it, I just kept on using it, and they'd keep putting them up, and it was a realization of not knowing, like we talked about, of not being taught anything to do with monetary value. You don't teach it at school. I didn't learn it at home, and then I was forced to learn it the hard way.
What was the worst part about selling the items that you sold at pawn shops?
You know what? I think it was the last time, and that was kind of the breaking point that got me on that path, was because I was down to 5 or 6 possessions, and one of them was a little 12-inch or a little 8-inch TV that I'd gotten as a gift when I was younger, and I took this and the other 5 belongings in, and I laid them on the counter, and it's kind of like when you're at that point in time where you've got your last belongings and you lay them on the counter, you're virtually laying yourself there, and the guy behind the counter turns around and says, I'll give you $25 for the works, and at that point in time, you're up against the wall. I mean, you've come this far. Yeah. Do you go back and try to come up with a new plan, or do you take the $25 and make sure that can work for today, and then get on a life-changing plan?
We're in a very difficult time as far as finances are concerned. We've got the fall of the European market. We've got countries that are literally defaulting. We've got the credit rating of several countries, including the United States, going down. We have the uncertainty within the banking industry, uncertainty within the real estate markets. What would you suggest for someone who is just starting at a young age to look at their financial future? How can they actually start and secure their futures?
Yeah, and I love that question, because they can start, or even if it's somebody midway through, they can always make the changes. You know what I mean? One of the biggest things I've done, and I still do it in my life, and both business and personal, is to have my plan, my budgets, my goals, paying myself first. 5 or 6 little, honestly, they're almost baby steps where they seem so easy. I think that's why people don't do them. But that's when you start to really, recession-proof yourself, recession-proof your family. And in the times that we're in, this is the best time to learn. You know what? We've got people that have made mistakes, and unfortunately, we're bearing a brunt of the mistakes that have been made. But you know what? Now's the time to break away from the pack, and start to think outside the box and start to go, okay, you know what? How can I do this for myself?
So are you suggesting that people should actually look at entrepreneurship even in a time of financial uncertainty like we are today?
Oh, huge. You know what? I mean, when I started being an entrepreneur, I started it during the last, quote, recession, unquote, that we were in. And I mean, sometimes some of the biggest breakout businesses or breakout successes are started in bad times. You know what? I mean, the only thing that we've got when you look at the markets that we're in and the conditions that we're in, and it is everywhere. You're 100% right. It's not, there's no one place that's not affected by it. And a lot of times, that means you need to work twice as hard. But at the end of the day, if you're willing to put the work in and you're willing to change the way you view things, and be able to take that first step and say, hey, I need to start doing things differently, you're going to be heavily rewarded for it.
Well, in your opinion, Trevor, what are the most common mistakes people make trying to pay off debt?
I think the number one common mistake they make is they go with minimums, not maximums, and they start paying the $25 minimum payment, or the $150 minimum payment, and they don't realize that on a balance as small as $2,000, that can take up to 18 years to pay off. Wow. In doing those minimum payments. Second is they go with debt consolidation loans. You know what? The other day, I'd heard on one of the local programs. It was quite a famous Canadian actor. He gets on the air and he says about how important it is, that people get a hold of their finances and look at debt consolidation loans and stuff like that. And I mean, each to their own. But I don't agree that that's something that's gonna help families in these kind of times. I think that kind of sets them up for failure.
What about these commercials that we see on TV where people can actually get a reverse mortgage for on their house? They don't have to pay anything back until they sell the house. Now, this in essence seems like a dream come true for people. How difficult is that really when we take a closer look at it? You know what,
being in the real estate market myself, I've seen this. I've seen the bad side of it. I've yet to see the good side of it. I think if the market was hopping along and houses were selling quickly in all markets, I don't think it would be a bad thing to help people out. But a lot of times when it sounds too good to be true, it is. And the realization when you've got markets that have an average sale time of 100+ days, and these people the interest is racking up. Their houses aren't selling. they start as payments on other things. Well, they're the first ones to jump on and start to foreclose the home. People need to be really, really cautious, and don't be afraid to tackle these guys head on and say, look, this is my life. This is the plan I'm going to make out, and I will have you caught up or will have you paid off, but you need to back off and let me do this my way.
Many of the credit cards these days are 19, 20% interest, even up to 25% interest. If you call up these people and say, listen, I just can't, it's killing me, will they back off, and then will they actually give you breaks with the interest rate that they're charging?
They will. A person has to be careful because they'll try to settle the amount owing first, and you don't want to do that because that's what's going to end up, in Canada, giving you the R9.
Yes.
So you want to avoid settling it. But what you want to do is, I can remember when I was in that kind of debt. And I mean, this was years ago, and I was $85,000 in debt. Yeah. And I phoned the credit card companies and the retail store cards and the bank, and I said, look, here's the situation I found myself in. You guys, if you were willing to work with me, I'm willing to work with you because I don't want to see this settled. I don't want to see this, bankruptcy and everything. This is my debt. Mm-hmm. I'm responsible for it. I'm going to pay it off. But you guys need to be willing to work with me. And it was fantastic. And I think that's what, those times what really started the trials for now, where people are able to do this and the banks are willing to work with people.
I've heard stories where people just put their head in the sand as if they expect the credit card company or the retail card company just to go away.
Well, it's happening all over the place, and I mean they're doing that with their mortgages too. And that's the worst thing you can do. And I mean I understand these debt collectors. A majority of them are not nice people, and
mm-hmm.
and I mean I don't mean any offense because that is their job, but
yeah.
they are only paid if they get you to buckle. So I mean they're going to do everything they can. People need to realize to not be scared of these guys, to not let them affect their lives or ruin their days. To say, hey, you know what? This is my life you're messing with. I'm in charge of my life, and here's how we're going to break this out. Take charge of your financial future.
That's another thing that I don't think that people actually know the proper way or what their rights are. They get these calls from the collection agencies or the collectors, and like you say, they buckle.
Yeah.
Are there any consumer organizations or groups that actually educate the public on what their rights are?
There is, and I mean, a majority of them are online now. But
mm-hmm.
I think the problem is that they're not. You go online and you read how these guys aren't supposed to be doing this to you, and there's really nothing to do with it. I can remember the nights I lost sleep. Just my health was deteriorating at rapid rates because 4 or 5 calls a day from these guys. Thank goodness there wasn't texting or emailing as it is now, or else I can imagine how they'd be getting a hold of people. But people just they honestly need to just take a stand and I mean don't hide from it. Don't tell them you're not going to do anything, but let them know that you're putting the plan into motion. Here's what the plan is, and then just stick with your plan. Stick with your life plan.
Trevor, stand by. Sir, you and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Trevor Bolin is our special guest. www.bolininternational.com. Trevor is the author of Take Charge and Change Your Life Today. We'll be back on the other side of this break with the news as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Exonation Trevor Bolin is our special guest this hour. His website is www.bolininternational.com, and he's the author of Take Charge and Change Your Life Today. Trevor owns 3 realty companies in British Columbia, Canada, including one in his hometown of Fort St. John, which was named the #1 RE/MAX small density office in the world. He's also chairman of Bolin & Company International Training, which offers coaching and seminars for business people. He has served 3 terms on the Fort St. John City Council. Once again, www.bolininternational.com. Trevor, we've been talking about the debt and basically how people should avoid getting into debt. And I understand that you have 5 simple steps for becoming debt-free in 2012.
I do, you bet, Rob. I mean, they're very simple, and that's part of the detailing in the book that I go over. Is no matter what stage a person's at, no matter what age they're at, if they're looking to avoid debt, if they're looking to get out of it, or if they're looking to sit down and learn with their kids. I mean, some of them are quite simple. Goals is certainly one of them, and that's one that we go over with the kids a lot. Is just to look at, first step where you are now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, where you want to be. I mean, people don't realize that written down, those goals start to become a law of how you live your life. And I mean, those are one of the greatest things. At the intro to the segment that you mentioned about making, my first million in a single year.
Yes.
That was one of the goals that was very well laid out, and it occurred the exact same year, with all the pre-lead up to it that was there. Second would be budgets. Budgets are big. People need to take charge of their household finances, and that's what I'm a real advocate for is, instead of putting the bills in the drawer, or, leave them in the envelope, or waiting until the, year end, whether it's business or personal, before you look at them, take them head on. Open those up, have a look at them, figure out, what portion of your income's going towards your expenses, because you really start to have a good look at how you can, create more cash that stays in your pocket, per se. Minimums, not, we talked about, don't pay your minimums, pay your maximums on your allowance, or on your amount owing. So when you do your budget, that ties in very nicely with that. Instead of being $25, if you're able to figure out where every one of your dollars is going to, and through budgeting you can, and although it seems tedious, it's a very, very rewarding process. You start to realize how you can chunk off more of that debt. And this is the true way to learn from, and that's why we talked earlier that, I think when you go to debt consolidations and these different things, you don't really learn. Next tip would be, talk to a not-for-profit debt specialist. You know what? There's a lot of people out there in Canada and the U.S. that this is what they specialize in. They specialize in helping people. They're not going to charge you big amounts of money for it. They're just out there to ensure that you're not losing sleep by hiding from these guys or by letting these guys harass you. On the flip side, get out and get some of the different books that are out there, like mine that we talked about, or numerous other ones that are designed to help people start to take charge. Next would be a life plan. It sounds like when you say life plan, it almost scares people off, but it's a very, very simple and actually fun way to start to look at as kids we dream and with New Year's, just being honest, we set resolutions and all these different things. Well, life plans are dreams and resolutions for me as to what they are for other people. So when I look at what my New Year's resolutions would have been, before I started to get on this path, when I look at what I always dreamt of being or wanted to be or wanted to accomplish, that's the things I put in my life plan. And when you tie those goals, those budgets, those life plans, all that in together, and the fact that you always need to continue to grow your knowledge, especially on with what's going on in the world, those are 5 very simple, very baby steps that start to detail how I changed my life.
Is there such a thing, Trevor, as an income debt ratio?
There is, and it's funny because I was given a seminar here not long ago, and one of the folks there said that if he'd be fine on his income and his debt ratio if it wasn't for his wife always trying to exceed how much he makes. And he kind of laughed after this, and I mean, I'm sure it goes wife, husband, singles, couples. It doesn't matter. But when he said this, and I started thinking, I said, well, if you're going to let your spending exceed your income. You can do that, but that's only going to last for so long, as we see with our governments doing it, over the last couple of years. Yeah. I said, then one of the two need to give. You either need to learn how to earn more money, or you need to learn how to spend less money. I said, but you can't do those two together. But I said, so which one's easier? Is it easier for you to spend less, or is it easier for you to earn more? And he said, well, it's probably easier for me to spend less. And I said, well, then you just answered your own question.
In your opinion, what are the best businesses if let's say somebody's laid off and they're looking to get into a new business and they want to try the entrepreneurial route? What, in your opinion, would be the best business to get into, let's say, as a home-based business, or something that mom and dad could work together on?
I think, honestly, what we're coming to right now is we're coming back to back to, you incorporate the online idea, incorporated with a customer service idea, because a lot of companies, and what we're seeing, in the last 10 or 15 years. It's funny because I was tweeting this morning that I was down in Oregon about a month ago, and down there it's law that all service stations are full service stations. Here in BC, and especially in Fort St. John, where I'm from, out of a dozen service stations, one of them might be full service. So I mean, we're going away from that customer service. We're going away from that face-to-face appreciation that a lot of businesses have built, huge success on. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to come to a point in time where people start to cry out for that customer service again. They start to cry out for the fact that they want to be able to have kind of that instant contact, but to know that they've been served well and almost served with a smile, whether it be online or not. So I think a lot of the online ways and a lot of the online sales are starting to really pick up. There's people making tremendous amounts of money or earning tremendous amounts of money through online sales, and it's given a whole new spin on to how the business is done.
But if people are wanting more personalized service, how long can we expect this trend in online business, which is very, very cold? You want something, you buy it, it's delivered, it's sent, bang, that's it. So if people want service, where's the service in an online business?
Well, you know what, Rob? You start to see some of the new programs coming out and getting huge. I mean, originally we started with Skype, and as Skype started to grow, all of a sudden, Apple came out with FaceTime, and there's all these different programs that are coming out that puts people back in touch with you. So it's not, it's not as cold of a process as it can be. I mean, you look at the consumer reports that came out, after the Christmas break on how many people were online shopping. I think if we could figure out how we could make online shopping the fact that you don't need to leave your house, but you don't have to have that cold side on the other end, I think you'll find a conversion between customer service and between online shopping or online business.
But we're also going to have to look at the ramifications of all this online business when it comes to the unemployment ratios, because the more online business is, the less people are being employed.
Yeah, there are, and that's why I think we talked about what would be some good things to start to look at, and I think combining those two could end up being a whole new market that we've yet to see.
And a perfect example of this is the print industry. The print industry is suffering greatly when it comes to the sale of books because of all the different handheld devices now that people would rather download an ebook than to purchase a print book.
And or even go on to Netflix and the old, with Blockbuster. Businesses are changing. People are changing. You look at the book end of things, and that's a great example, because right now you look at Amazon and these different sites. Ebooks are literally leading in sales because that's going to be the next generation. For our kids to go into a bookstore and buy a book could very well become obsolete in 15 or 20 years from now, which is what we enjoy doing. But going and talking to somebody, what we did 20 years ago versus our kids just texting, has also been that trend. It's been that change. I mean, it's a crazy exciting time. If you think of the changes and the advancements made in the last 15 years, probably outweigh double than the 50 prior to that. And I think it's going to keep on changing. This is a pattern that we're not going to see change.
I think what has to happen is that there has to be that happy medium found. Let's just use the publishing industry for as an example. When it comes to a print book, you've got the pulp and paper industry that is employed. You've got the printers that are employed. You've got the import of materials that are employed. Now, a book that costs $35, an author self-publishes, can sell that book online for less than $2.
Yeah.
But how many people? Now. That's right. But how many people are being put out of jobs because of the advances of technology? And I can't see yet the happy medium. I don't think there's a happy medium yet. So where does technology get kudos for advancements instead of saying, geez, technology is great, but look at all the people we've just put out of work? Yeah, no, fair enough. But I think the other hand of it too is you look at any advancements that were made in automobile industry, manufacturing, anything that have that thousands of more people 20 years ago than they do today, but because of advancements, they were able to start to streamline the process. And you look at the consumer at the end of the line paying, $2.99 versus $35.
that's who's really driving it, is the consumer saying, we want it fast, we want it cheaper. And instant gratification has become the new normal way of life.
That's right. And I there are sometimes I shudder to think where it's going to go in the future. And
that's why I think, honestly, I think you'll find, I think there will be a happy medium, because, I mean, right now, if you look at it, I don't own an e-reader. I'm an author.
Right.
I'm currently working on my third book. I don't have an e-reader. I like the fact, and I talk to a lot of people, that you like the fact that you still have this tangible book. You have something that as you're holding it, it gives you a sense of what the author put into this, or what the full meaning is, that I think you still find, or that you will find on these e-readers. No matter how many hit the market. I mean, it started with one and still are slow, and then all of a sudden, there's 4 or 5 that are out there. And I don't think they're a bad thing, because I know, being on a plane a lot and traveling a lot, I know that would make it a lot handier. But I still am very much in my hand. Yeah. When I read a book, I devour it. And I think that's, the people that do that, and the people that are able to say, I'm going to devour this entire book and soak it all up. I don't know if you can do that on an e-reader.
Well, when we look at the big picture again, if we're looking at people who traditionally read books, they're going to be dinosaurs very shortly.
Yeah, they are.
And once the need has been absorbed by the e-need, like I'm telling you, we also run a publishing company. It's called e-format publishing and digital technology. Every day we get more and more and more requests from authors to put their book into e-format. Yeah. Because they're saying, geez, I don't have to give a publisher this much money. I don't have to give a publicist this much money. I don't have to pay this much for marketing. I don't have to make sure that I buy so many books. They get the money right in their pocket directly from the consumer. And yet,
I agree.
And yet, when you look at the work that authors put in, you look at the major publishing houses, you say, what's going on in the future? And then you've got all the school books, the textbooks, Kids now download their books at the beginning of the year, and it saves mom and dad a ton of money.
Yeah, a ton of money, ton of room in their bags, room in their lockers. Yeah, no, I mean, there's some huge advancements. That's what we said, a bit ago. There's huge advancements that make a lot of sense when you're looking at the instant gratification purpose, not when you're looking at, like you said, the thousands of jobs that are lost.
I'll give you an example. For an author to send out a book, they have to pay the, let's say, the PR firm for that book, or send that book that they have to pay for, and then they have to pay postage on top of that, which a normal size book will cost an author anywhere from $12 to $15. The ebook is sent electronically, or in a flipbook format on a DVD for under $1.
Yeah, I know. It's a game changer.
It is. It really is. Where do you see the big changes coming? We've got about a minute before we go to commercial break. Where do you see the big changes in real estate coming from?
I think no matter what, I don't think the real estate industry can avoid the fact that all these other industries are going to change. I mean, I think what you've seen in the last couple of years with some of these guys that have popped up, and tried to do the whole discount dollar with the service. I think people, again, they're still saying, we want more service, we want full service. Yeah. I think we need to go. I think you're going to find the real estate industry go to more of an online, simplified virtual presence as far as just having the same old system of a realtor picking up the phone and making those contacts.
Trevor, it's great having you with us. Please stand by. Exonation Trevor Bolin is our special guest. And www.bolininterntional.com is his website. The name of the book, Exonation, I think this would be a great book for every family. You can actually read it together, plan your futures together, and give your children an idea on how to make a plan for their lives. Because as parents, that's part of our responsibility, isn't it? The name of the book is Take Charge and Change Your Life Today. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue with our special guest this hour, Trevor Bolin. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Exonation, Trevor Bolin is our special guest, www.bolininternational.com. He's the author of Take Charge and Change Your Life Today. Trevor, what would you like to leave the members of the Exo Nation with tonight?
Well, you know what, Rob, I guess number one was thanks for sharing with me and letting me share, but I think people need to be able to, like we said, take that first step, realize that they're not alone. There's a lot of other people and a lot of families that go through a lot of the problems they're going through, and that's why people like me are out there. And you know what? People that have been through this and been able to overcome it and exceed it, they're the ones that like to help. They're the ones that are, you know, the main reason I wrote a book wasn't to, you know, to see myself on paper, because I can do that plenty at home. It was to be able to fast track the way people can start to put a little bit of success in their personal lives, a little bit more success into their business lives, and just basically share with them the fact that, hey, you know what, you don't need to have your kids go through the same trials and tribulations that you did. You can stop the pattern now, get involved, have fun with it, and start to really recession-proof your family.
On a different note, what do you think about the Canadian federal government's idea about lifting the age of retirement from 65 to 67?
Well, I think it was a matter of time, because I think there's people that are 65 or coming on to 65, and they can't retire. You look at that wealth gap they did between the young and the old. It's at its widest level in 30 years. I mean, it shows you that, you know, the youth coming up now are going to be in worse shape, you know, when they retire than our seniors are upon us now, and that's kind of a scary fact. And I think what they're doing is they're trying to be proactive, but people need to realize that you can't. I mean, you don't want to work until you die. There's a reason that 65, 67, it should be a choice after that. It shouldn't be mandatory. So, I mean, people need to really start looking at their future, looking at their budgets, looking at their goals, and realizing that they're the ones that are responsible for what's going to happen in their lives 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, and demand more, demand the best, demand that this be the best life, that, you know, it goes out in records for people deserving it.
One quick question. Do you think the Canadian real estate market will ever be in the same mess that the U.S. real estate market is in?
I don't. You know, there was a lot of precautionary measures that were put in that in the market myself we're very thankful for. Now, not every area is either done well or not done well. But on an average, when you look at the Canadian market, we're very fortunate, and we didn't get hit as bad with the subprime in the beginning. It was only 3 or 4%, and then the federal government stepped up and changed the amortizations. They shortened the amortization rates. They made the approval process a little bit harder. And you know what? It's things like that make us in the industry and I mean make us in Canada proud that we've been able to get away with, you look at the States. I mean, the only good thing is when the States officially hit recession, which was November of 2007, a lot of our Canadian markets didn't even feel that until 2009. So by the time we realized something had changed, the changes were made to protect the consumers, the mortgage consumers and the housing consumers, and now as the state starts to slowly but surely rebuild, which they will. I mean, they'll start to see some turnaround here, I think, in numbers in the next year or so. It's going to rise up again, and that's just going to make Canadian market that much stronger.
Trevor, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. We look forward to the next time we talk here in the X Zone. But X Zone Nation, for more information on Trevor, visit his website, BolinInternational.com, and the name of his book is Take Charge and Change Your Life Today. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news here in the X Zone.